Have you had a big goal like traveling the world or writing a book or starting a new business? My guest today, Leigh Shulman, has done all three. Tune in to today's episode. Hello, dreamers. Welcome to the Late Starters Club, giving you the inspiration, mindset, and tools you need to start something midlife and beyond. Remember, it's never too late to follow your dreams. Hello, late starters. It's your host, Andrea Vall, and I am here with Leigh Shulman, who has done a lot of different things. But one of the things that kind of really drew me into talking with her is later in life, she decided to move out of Brooklyn, travel the world with her young daughter and husband, and just went all over the place and then ended up settling in Argentina. So I'm super excited to dive into what that looked like and those decisions, but then also talk about her main business. She has founded the Inspired Writer Community, a women writers network for writers at any stage in their writing lives. Her best selling book, The Writer's Roadmap, helps thousands find their way into the writing world. So, welcome, Leigh.
Thank you so much for having me, Andrea. Lovely to be here.
Yeah, very cool. So, that must have been such a huge decision. I mean, it's not like everyone with an 18-month-old says, "Hey, let's let's just travel the world and sell all our stuff." Like, how did that decision come into play?
It mainly came about because we didn't like raising a child in Brooklyn is very difficult, or
Mm,
it's harder than I think in a lot of ways it needs to be.
mhm,
Getting into school, getting her into a school was the catalyst for me because for an so she would have started soon after that, and there were all the schools near us. There were interviews and psychological evaluations and group play dates, and
mhm.
we had to write essays. And I was thinking, I don't want to put my 2-year-old through the level of stress that you go to get into college. It just seems like a train I don't want her to be in.
Mhm.
And we weren't really happy living there anymore. And it's funny because when we made the choice to leave, when we said, oh, we're leaving, people assume, oh, yeah, we're moving out to Long Island or we're moving out to Connecticut or some other place where we're going to settle down more. And we're like, no, we're selling everything and we're going to see where we end up. That was the catalyst with Lila. But I think also because I was in New York for 9/11, and I guess the big takeaway for me was anything can happen at any time, no matter where you are. It sounds terrible to say it this way. There's no such thing as this is stable and safe. So why not do the thing that you really want to
Right.
do? Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing, and you had means of being able to work remotely or you had started blogging and did photography and did some travel blogging work and things like that, so that's really cool too. You just were able to work wherever you wanted and create a life, and you went all over Europe?
hmm Yeah. Well, I mean, and I will say also, when we first left, we sold everything. And at the beginning, the money that we got from selling it, because we left with almost nothing, we used that money to fund the travels. We also stayed with people. We traveled pretty cheaply. When you live in a house and you have a mortgage and you have your payments, and you have to be at work on time and you go on a 2-week trip somewhere, you're staying in a hotel, all of that is much more expensive and you have your payments. When you
Mhm,
don't have any, we got rid of everything. We had no payment.
mhm.
And the way we traveled, we stayed with people, we couch surfed, we would camp in places, and things are a lot cheaper when you do it that. We also spent a lot of time in Latin America, where we are
Yeah,
now, where it's cheaper than Europe, but some places in
yeah.
Europe aren't bad either.
And that's what I think people forget. Like you said, when you're on vacation, you're living it up, you're doing all the things. A lot of places are not like the big touristy destinations where hotel rooms are $200 a night. You're not staying in a $200 a night hotel room. You're
No.
yeah.
No, we did
So
not see many of those. No.
so, yeah, that's amazing, and what an incredible experience as a family to have and the memories to have to be able to do that, and was it just really sort of a go by feeling, or was there any map out of, "Hey, we definitely wanna hit these destinations," or was it just, "Let's go here, and then we'll see what we wanna do next?"
It was very much let go here and see what happens next. But a lot of the let's go here was based on something that might be there for us. So
Mhm.
we initially went to Europe. So we started off our trip with 3 months in Europe and we went to visit some friends of ours who were neighbors where we lived in Brooklyn and they had a
Mhm.
place there. So we started with them and then traveled around, visited people, went between people we knew. I was thinking about this before. Also, one of the big differences between traveling when you're, say, 18 or 20, you're right out of college, and when you're older is you know more people, you have more resources,
Mhm.
and you're more willing to be like, hey, can I stay? Or do you
Right?
know anything? Do you have any connections that could help out? And that's a lot of how we went around. And actually, the way we ended up in Argentina is Noah, my husband, asked a professor of his who we had traveled to Brazil with him years ago before we had kids. I think we were, I was maybe 25 at the time.
Mhm.
And we'd been in touch with him because he worked a lot in Latin America. So we said, hey, do you
Uh-huh.
know anything? And he's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm doing this conference in Salta. Why don't you come?
Huh.
And I could not have guessed where that would have led me. But just having that touchstone, here's a person who knows somebody there who could help us find some resources there was
Right.
enough to get us started. And then you figure out a lot on your own.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
was, yeah, we didn't plan that much. Some people are big planners. We're not. To this day, when I travel, there are things that I like doing and I will plan a little bit, but I like to
Uh-huh.
leave blocks open to let things unfold as they're going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great, and how beautiful because then that allows for just all the serendipity to come into play. And you live now in Salta, and I was looking at your pictures and stuff. It's just gorgeous. It's just gorgeous, and it might not have been a destination that you pick. That's the thing that
No, I don't
that's
we
intriguing.
didn't even know about it. We're like, "What's it called?" Never would have picked this place on our own. Even Buenos Aires, we didn't actually pick Buenos Aires. We had considered going to Montevideo because another neighbor of ours who's a journalist and he's traveled around a lot, he really wanted to leave Brooklyn also. He should go to Montevideo. So, the flights to Buenos Aires are the best way to get there, and
Mhm.
we've never been there. We actually never made it there. We just ended up other places.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I will say, I think that serendipity that you're talking about, that's when some of my favorite travel memories have happened because
Yeah.
they're just, you let things, it allows you to talk to people, to check out things that you wouldn't
Right.
necessarily do otherwise. I let things happen,
Yeah.
which I enjoy. I really enjoy
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you had talked about that the community that you need to lean into, and that's something you do in your writing groups and retreats and things like that, but it's interesting to think about that even in travel or in life and just letting people help you, letting asking for help, and just really let that be a guide to you.
Absolutely. And I'm very big into communities, and I feel like I'm connected to a lot of different communities. And part of that is because I love to travel. I mean, I would say when I lived in Brooklyn is, I mean, New York in general is very much, you don't talk to your neighbors, you don't do this, you walk on the street, you're not looking at people,
Mm,
not a lot of eye contact. And it took a long time for me to start being able to ask people for things.
mhm.
But once you do, just everything opens up. A lot
Yeah.
of people will say no, or they won't respond, or
Mhm,
whatever it might be. But in my
mhm.
experience, more people want to support and help than will
Yeah,
block you.
yeah.
And that does create community and it does create opportunity and possibility. And for me, it makes life feel more open and more loving, I guess. Also,
Mhm,
that you can trust the people around you. And that's hard. When you said asking for help, like that's so hard for so many people. And as our world becomes more chaotic, I think asking people for help and listen to me, hear me, understand where I'm coming from.
mhm.
We're human. We need that. And without that, we're very shut down. For
Yeah,
me, travel is very much about that ability to open up and kind of
yeah.
explore and trust a little more.
Yeah, yeah, that's great, and there's so many studies about the benefits of community and how we, in this day digital age, how sometimes we're losing that in-person community and the it can help connect you, keep you connected in some ways, but for sure. Like the in-person community is important too, and being able to connect with people. So that's great. That is
Absolutely.
that's great. So what was it like traveling with your young daughter? People sometimes worry about just taking one plane trip. You're you're going lots of different places. What was that like and how did that work for you?
It's actually really nice. It also depends where you travel, I think, because different cultures have different ways of treating kids and how they see
Mhm.
kids.
Mhm.
But people were really nice. They were extra nice to us. Oh, you have a child, you're in the family. And they would go out of their way to take care of us. There was one, Lila, when she was 9, we went to Bolivia on our own, just the two of us.
Mhm.
Sometimes I think about it because we had 2 weeks on our own. Noah was traveling. He was doing something for work, and we're like, "What should we do?" And I'm like, "Oh, let's go to Bolivia." And we volunteered in a monkey refuge, monkey
Mm.
sanctuary.
Mhm.
And I was just amazed at how people would watch out for us, would give us advice on the street. Like they want to help you. They really want to
Mhm.
be there for you and support you. And I felt very taken care of and what like the people were watching out for me. And also when we're traveling with Noah, there's something about families that helps you integrate into other communities and local
Mm.
communities.
Mhm.
So, as an example, we were in Panama and we went to the Cunayala Island, which is off the northern coast. If Panama City's at the south, like you go north,
Mhm.
and the Cunayala Islands are up north. And the Cunayala, it's really interesting because they're one of the few indigenous people on the planet who own their own land and it's all
Mm.
theirs. And if you
Um,
want to visit there, it's not hard to get their permission, but you do have to get
mhm.
their permission.
Mm.
So we stayed in one of the bigger islands and it had a village there that had their village there. And the way it works is you stay with a family or you
Mm.
stay in a little shelter in the island, but somebody makes sure you have food and whatever it is. And I don't know, Lila was off playing with the kids there. I don't think there were many kids that were brought there. And so I spent a lot of time with the women talking about things. And Kunayala traditionally they do this bead work that they wrap
Mm.
around their forearms and their, I don't know what it's called, forelegs. And I just remember Lila was off playing and I was with women and they were teaching me how to, and I just felt so, but they weren't doing that with other people who didn't have children
Mm.
because
Mm.
it was just so weird. It was not weird. It was just different and
Mhm.
brought us into their community more. So it's different because I also noticed we would be traveling and solo travelers wouldn't really talk to us. It's
Mm.
like you're separate, but
Mhm.
local people were like, "Oh, hey, how's it going? What do you need?"
Mhm. Oh,
Um,
nice. That's great. That's neat. I love that, and I think it's great that you can lean into it because I think that people make it into a bigger deal than it needs to be. Like, you don't people think, "Oh my god, I need all this gear and all this," and I'm like, "Yeah, we didn't necessarily travel with all that gear and everything. Of course, you need safety equipment and stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff that we have in the US that I think is extraneous." That's awesome, and what a great experience, and how wonderful for your daughter to experience all these different cultures as well. So, that is just amazing. So, and now, did you start your writing group while you were traveling, or was it more when you settled in Salta?
I officially started it when we were already in Salta, but the
Mhm.
seeds of it started while we were traveling because
Mhm.
when you were saying before the online and internet can connect you with
Mhm.
people, but then it's about I fully agree with that. It's great to have an online connection, but for me, it's not real until you meet in person because online people can disappear and you'll never see them again.
Mhm.
Um, Once you meet face to face, it becomes real. I met a lot of people, traveled online. I would travel, go places, meet people, come and visit us. A lot of people in the travel blogging community and the travel writing community. And through that, I just got to know more and more people and like, how do you work online? And oh, people need writing support. Okay, that's what I've been
Mhm.
doing. And what I slowly but surely I would build things up. And eventually I was like, you know what? I'm doing this in bits and pieces. Let me just make it a business. And
Mhm.
that's how the inspired writer community started. And it is based on all of that sense of how do you use these resources? How do you make a
Mhm.
community? How do you get the support and the feedback and the connections that you need in order to do everything you want to do to write and whatever that means, different for everybody. And I think a lot of times people think of a writing community there as like, I don't know exactly what they think of it, or like, the writing group, or you're sharing work, or you're giving feedback. And that is part of it. But the way I see it is more of a toolbox, that
Mm.
there are all these different features that you can use. But the first thing you have to do is decide, what is it that I actually want? What is it
Mhm.
that makes most sense to me? My book also came out of having that conversation with so many people. These people would ask
Mhm.
me questions, and I was working one on one with people. And finally, I was like, I should just write it down, because people want to hear it. So that'll be a lot easier than repeating it all those
Yeah.
different times.
Yeah.
So you figure out what you want, and then you use the inspired writer community and the tools in it to build that and to create
Mhm.
that for you. So you always have a place to ask for help, ask questions. And because I would think the face to face part is so important, a little bit at a time, I run writing retreats. Sometimes people come here, sometimes I run them
Mhm.
elsewhere. When I do go to the States or I'm traveling somewhere, I try to do a get together to meet people, whether
Mhm.
they're actually members of the community or their friends or whatever it might be, just to always bring people together so we can meet face to face and
Right.
have real world connection that then enforce, reinforce what we do online.
Mhm. Yeah, that's so important, and I think yeah, I totally agree that I think about people I've met. I go to a lot of conferences, and I think about the people I've met in person versus ones I just know online, and it really feels like they're not really real until you meet them. You're like, "Oh, now I've gotten to really have a conversation with you," and you can't it's harder to do that when you're just online. Although, for sure, like, things like where regular meetings and facilitating groups and mastermind type things, those all can be really great tools. And so that when you finally do meet in person, you're like, I feel like we've already met. Are you sure we didn't meet?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, you're 100% right. Masterminds, online classes. I do one on ones with
Yeah.
people. I run groups and I
Yep.
teach courses. And so a lot of my face to face is, oh, I'm going to be in Buenos Aires. Hey, are there
Yeah.
people there? Hey, do you want to meet up? Or New York or
Yeah.
Atlanta or wherever I
Yeah.
might be? Because it just makes it better. And then our
Yeah.
online work goes another level deeper. You get to
Yeah.
meet each other's kids. You get to see a person's face and how they move.
Mhm.
And there's something about
Yeah.
that does get lost online a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. For
So
sure. For sure. So one of the things you would when I do the preparation for these interviews is I ask people that they what they want to highlight. And this one was something I was really curious about. You said why we need to be more selfish, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that because I think that's such an interesting thing because selfish has such bad connotations in a lot of ways.
yeah, in my experience, people who worry about whether or not they're actually selfish are almost never selfish. So I think that's why I say be selfish, because people who don't want to be that way probably don't put themselves first enough. And I see
Mhm.
that with a lot of particularly when you're talking about writing, you have to set boundaries. You have to, it's so easy. Oh, just one thing or da, da, da. And the next thing you know, your writing time is gone.
Right.
And you have to say, no, don't come in here. Don't talk to me. I'm going out or whatever it is, and set a lot of boundaries. And I actually made selfish one year my word of the year. And what it comes down to is it's all about, what is it that you want? What do you want? Because even when you have so many pressures going on, your people asking you questions, or you need this, or you're having to balance this, that can go out the window really quickly. And in a
Mhm.
sense, I use the word selfish because people have such strong reactions to it. And I was saying, get used to it. Get used to saying,
Mhm.
you know what? I am going to be selfish. I am going to put
Mhm.
myself first, because I just see so many people not doing that, and because of that, putting things off because of what they want, because of what other people say or what other people think are right, or you have this responsibility, and you can spend your whole life focusing on other people's priorities, and somehow yours just, then what do you do with yours?
Mhm.
So that's why I think we need to, if you are selfish and you're like, oh no, I'm not, and you don't care about being selfish, then this advice is probably not for you. But
Mhm.
in my experience, most people are not that way, and they do worry about other people and what they need, and they are too busy putting other people first,
Mhm.
and put yourself first. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. I love that. And especially with writing because it's hard to fit writing in a little 5-minute chunk. You need a bigger spacious time to get into the flow. At least that's my experience. I need time. It takes me time to get into it. I can't just be like, "Oh, I'm gonna write 2 sentences here and do something and then another 2 sentences." That really interrupts the flow, and you need that block of time. It's easy to chip away at it with just let it slide.
Exactly. And I think also writing is one of those things where people don't really take it seriously.
Mm,
So it's, oh, that's so cute. You need time to write. Well, yeah, you need time to write in order to write the things in order to move forward. And that's not going to happen if you never take that time to write.
mhm,
Everyone I work with, I'm like, yeah, you've got to set and guard your writing time. And it's not easy. It's a lot of
mhm,
repetition. It's a lot of hiding. Sometimes not a lot of hiding, but it's some hiding and people will call you selfish. They will call, like, why are you spending all this time writing something that you don't even know if it's ever going to be published? It's an act of faith. Why not have faith in me?
mhm,
And it flips it on people. We're like, please,
mhm,
people who care about you want to have faith in you. And
mhm,
it requires a lot of conversations and it requires a lot of working through so that you begin to take yourself seriously in your writing, and then other people do too. And that's what creating that space and saying, you can't use my writing time for something else.
mhm. Yeah, that's a challenge, and it's a challenge, because it's interesting that you said that people don't take it seriously, and I think if you take it seriously, like, this is a job, this is a like, people wouldn't say, "Hey, you don't need your time to work." That's your working time, so it's interesting how writing time or something creative can take a back seat and a back priority as something that's not as important.
Absolutely. I say that all the time that, so many people have a dream to write. So many people tell me like, oh, I've wanted to write this novel. It's been following me my whole life. And sometimes there's just never time, and there won't be time until you say like, "All right, I'm gonna do this." And then, of
Mhm,
course, it's not easy to write a book, and taking yourself seriously is difficult. Having other people I don't really worry too much about other people taking me seriously because that's
mhm,
you either do or you don't, and I
mhm.
try to block that out as much as possible. But for me to be able to say or somebody who's writing a book for the first time, "I don't know what I'm
Mhm.
doing. Where is this gonna go?" Trust yourself. Trust
Yeah.
yourself is the best advice, I think. It's amazing writing advice. It's good advice for
Mhm.
anything, I think, but I've seen it time and time again where somebody just because they've never written a book, they don't know what to say. I'm like, "Well, what do you think?" And then they'll tell me what they think, and I'm like, "All right, try it."
Mhm.
And, like, really thought it wouldn't work. I would say something, but most time, people
Mhm.
know exactly what they want, and they know exactly what to do,
Mm,
and but just they doubt that they know. It's just you can really trust yourself. You can trust yourself
yeah.
to make the decisions that are best for you when you are really paying attention to what you want and you're really clear in that. It's when
Yeah.
other people, you should do this. What about this? Have you published? Have you done this? Da, da, da. Those voices distract you from your instinct and what you want. So shut them out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It can be a very distracting world out there, and is there any advice that you would give in particular to late starters who are thinking about writing a book? I know you probably work with all ages, but is there anything unique about starting or writing a book or any sort of writing goal that you might have for people doing that later in life that you think might be good advice for them?
I think when you're starting later in life, you have so much more experience. You know things so much more, and there's so many philosophies and ideas that you have come to know just from living life and seeing how things play out. And so, if you can write words, you can write a scene, any of that you can learn. But having a message and a clear message and knowing what that means and how that plays out in the world, that takes time and experience. So
Mm,
what I would somebody starting out later is again, it goes back to trust yourself.
mm,
You'd be surprised how much you know. Really believe in yourself because
mhm,
a lot I have people in my writing community. I've had people come in who 70, 80 years old. I think the oldest person was maybe 86. And I'm a big believer in it's I can help you shape your writing, but I can't tell you your story.
Mm,
And I'm not here to do that. I'm here to help you tell your story.
mhm,
And all of them, they have a story. They've learned so many things. All of us, the more you live, the more you know.
mhm.
So I think it's just, take the leap and try it and trust that you really do know a lot. And the more you've lived, the
Yeah.
more you have to say, you
Mhm.
know,
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
teach you how to do
That's
it well.
yeah. Yeah, it's so great, and why not? If you've had this book I've talked to a lot of people who have book ideas and just get it done and keep chipping away at it and
Right.
defend your time. So much great advice. Thank you so much, Lee. This has been so fun. And as usual, I love to close out the interview with one of my favorite parts is finding out people's inspirational quote, motivational saying. What do you have? I'm just such a quote junkie, so love to hear it.
Awesome. No, I love it. I'm excited for this. So I have two. One of them is a quote, a Rumi quote, the poet Rumi,
Mhm.
12th century
Mhm.
Persian poet. What you seek is seeking you.
Mm.
And I particularly love it because it always makes me feel like, let me just put down my guard. Let me put down all my defenses. And that the thing that I want most is going to come to me as I'm moving toward it. And it helps me have
Mm.
faith and kind of relax and just let me do what I want to do or what feels right. And then my other quote, it's not from somebody else. It's my life mantra. It's I'll figure it out. Wherever it is, whether I'm stuck in the desert or I'm stuck on a chapter or my kid is saying no, I'll figure it out. I'll figure it
Yeah.
out.
I love that. It's so true. It's so true. Especially traveling, you get into some pretty crazy situations sometimes where you're like, huh, locked out in Greece on a whatever, like, how are we gonna navigate that? But we'll figure it out. Yeah, that's amazing. Lee, this is so fun. So great hearing about your travels and your writing. And where can people find you to learn more?
All right. So the two best places to find me are my website, which is Leigh Shulman. It's my name, LeigHShulman.com, or Instagram. So on my website, you'll find resources, links, information about writing. I have
Mhm,
a course on there where the first lesson is free. It's right on the main page.
mhm,
Or Instagram, which is where I have conversations. We talk about writing, but other stuff too. And my Instagram handle is the Leigh Shulman. Same
mhm.
name spelling, but
Yeah.
just the, with the THE at the beginning.
Yeah, nice. Well, we'll have those links in the show notes and definitely, guys, go check out her page of like fun little pictures too in her about section. It's just really beautiful pictures of Salta. And who knows, you might think, hey, I need to go plan a trip there. I didn't even know about
Yeah.
it.
If you come to Salta, message me. Definitely message me.
Okay.
I love to
Yeah.
go swing
Yeah.
around. So
Awesome. Thanks again, Lee. Thanks for your time.
thank you. Bye.
Bye. Hope that was helpful, and make sure you grab the free guide, Top Tools for Late Starters, on the website at latestartersclub.com. And let's turn dreaming into doing.